everybody, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today, coming to you from the Sports Interaction Studio, where we always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playalog. What a time to be a Toronto Blue Jays fan. And years prior in the offseason, there's been a lot of complaints about how we're waiting, we're taking our time. This year, nay. They went out, they saw their guy, and they got him. And the word on the street is that Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, Edward Rogers, those lads, they just started cooking in the kitchen. They have more moves coming. That was the appetizer. We haven't even got to the main course yet. We're going to break down why that Dylan Cease move was only the first of what many people are presuming to be many dominoes for the Toronto Blue Jays this offseason, and what those dominoes might look like. Before we do, please make sure to hit that like, smash that subscribe button, hit the hype button as well. Helps us grow quite a bit. And of course, let us know your thoughts down below.
Yeah, guys, it's an exciting time to be alive, and I can't wait to share with you what we have learned after the fallout of the Dylan Cease moves. Now, before we move on and talk about all that, let's just recap the whole Dylan Cease thing right here. Apparently, and this is something that came out yesterday, the Blue Jays were actually targeting Dylan Cease for quite a while. Last year, they were trying to trade for Dylan Cease, and in fact, they actually had a pitch presentation in the spring of 2024 that was trying to get Dylan Cease over here. This presentation was led by Pete Walker and pitching assistant coach Sam Green, and apparently Dylan Cease was very impressed by this, and they answered his questions, and they had a solution for him to grow and be a dominant number one. And right before we hit the record button, obviously, we know that Dylan Cease didn't have a great year last year. The underlying metrics say otherwise, that he could have had a better year. But it feels like after I had a bad year, if I'm Dylan Cease and I'm looking over at the Blue Jays, and I'm thinking, hey, they're World Series right there. They're almost World Series champions. They got a great organization. The players talk heavily about it. And now, I remember what you said to me a couple of years ago, how you could make me a dominant number one. I'm going to come here for the next 7 years and maybe grow my career and build my legacy.
I think, thinking back to 2024 when they were having these conversations, what would have been the one thing holding him from coming here? Probably the fact that we had no postseason success.
Right.
I'm sure that he loved the presentation, but at the end of the day, he wants to go be a dominant number one on the team that actually matters.
Right.
And guess what? Now the Toronto Blue Jays matter. So they checked all the boxes as to why he may want to come here. And a lot of those boxes are being checked for other individuals as well. So many people have been coming out and talking about how good this Toronto Blue Jays, just facilities, everything is. You actually had, I believe it was Kevin Pillar, Ricky Romero, right? Two former guys out here. Ricky saying, I really do think that free agents took notice after that World Series run that the Blue Jays just had, who wouldn't want to play for an entire country that everyone witnessed. And Kevin's coming out and then following up on that, piggybacking off of that, saying this, and I don't think that world-class facilities hurt. Ask any player in terms of treatment of their wife and kids. So not only do the Toronto Blue Jays, they have now the playoff pedigree, they have all the money, they have world-class facilities, and you're seeing these big names like Dylan Cease, who in years prior chose to go elsewhere. Even though Toronto was targeting him, now he's making the choice to come here.
Yeah, exactly, right? We have a great organization. It's the great foundation, and credit to Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro. I know we've been getting on them the last few years before the World Series run, and I think we had right to do so because the results weren't showing. The results are showing now, and honestly, now it's starting to show to other free agents and other agents. They want to come and bring their players here, and players want to play here. Scott Boras, you guys know and you guys love him. One of the bigger free agents.
Do they love him?
Yeah, I know. It was being sarcastic. He's a money grub. He likes to get the biggest dollars for his guys. But he came out in here and he was talking about the Blue Jays and he was talking about the players. And when you become a winning club, players take notice. That was the final, piece of the solution of how do we get free agents come to Toronto? Well, you built all the great stuff. You have the great reputation. Now just go and you win. And the Blue Jays are the team that are right there on the doorstep. They almost won a World Series last year. Now, if I'm a free agent and I hear how great this organization is, maybe I could be the piece not to carry us to the World Series, but to complete the World Series run and do it for a long time, mind you, because this organization is now built to win for a very long time.
Yeah, and let me tell you, folks, I mean, I highly recommend that you go and you read that article by Shai Davidi.
It's awesome.
I mean, like, Scott Boras goes into depth, right? There are paragraphs of him just glazing up the Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, Toronto's a winning franchise. I'd strongly consider being part of that. When you have talent, you certainly have the bright lights to go with it. So I think that everything about what they've done in the past couple of years has proven to reward them with that placement, to say that to the player community. He just goes on and on and on, gassing up, glazing the Toronto Blue Jays, which is ultimately a good thing. He's probably playing the businessman here, trying to set us up so then hopefully Ross and Mark will come to him and be like, hey, can we get more of your guys? Which I'm sure that he'd be happy about. But ultimately, when you have somebody like Scott Boras who is really, gassing up the Toronto Blue Jays, there's going to be a lot of players that are hearing that as well. And I would imagine that you are going to see Scott Boras and his agents, or not his agents, sorry, his clientele, be coming to the Toronto Blue Jays a lot more when they are looking for a brand new spanking contract.
Yeah, and now the title of this video and this podcast is talking about how there is going to be more moves to come, and there are more moves to come. Like, Dylan Cease isn't the last move that the Blue Jays are going to. It's literally the first domino, right? It's not just, only Dylan Cease wanted to come to Toronto. No, like, the Blue Jays are going to be heavily active in that market. First things first, speaking of that Shai Davidi article, this is a little snippet that Ben Turner cut out here. Shout out to Ben Turner, always cutting great snippets from Shai's articles, saying the Blue Jays have also engaged in back-end relievers seeking to further bolster their bullpen and remain in pursuit of Bo Bichette. I think that's the number one thing that people were kind of worried about. Maybe people who aren't familiar with what's happening in terms of the market for the Blue Jays. They thought, you go sign Dylan Cease for $210 million. That immediately takes you out of Bo Bichette. Not at all. Bo Bichette is a guy they need to have back in this team. They know how valuable that bat is in that lineup, and they're going to remain in pursuit. In fact, I think you said it yesterday, Dylan Cease actually helps the Blue Jays bring back Bo Bichette.
Let me be very clear. The acquisition of Dylan Cease should only help in the pursuit of Bo Bichette, or alternatively other free agents. Those individuals, Bo, Edwin Diaz, Kyle Tucker, they want to know that this window is being lengthened. Dylan Cease is here for 7 years. They're investing in this team, and I imagine that Toronto is still going to be in those talks to invest in Bo and Tucker and Diaz and what have you. Getting good players onto this team is never a bad thing. And for all of those individuals out there who are worried about the money and thinking it's an overpay, guess what? The money is unlimited, folks. I know that that's crazy to say. Maybe it's blasphemous of me to say, and in years prior, I would have been proven wrong. But today, it is a very different Toronto Blue Jays front office, free agency than you have come to know. They went to the World Series. They're willing to invest the utmost amount of money into this squad. Dylan Cease coming to the Jays does not hurt their Bo Bichette chances. It only helps them.
Absolutely, right? And now, I will say, to kind of throw like a little bit doubt, I guess, does Dylan Cease limit us from getting Kyle Tucker? Maybe a little, because then you're asking for a huge spend this offseason, right? Because Kyle Tucker's looking to get close to $400 million, and already Dylan Cease is committed to $600 million. Unless the Blue Jays, and they could very well,
that's the thing,
have a Dodgers offseason where they spend $1 billion or commit to $1 billion.
For me, they were here's the thing. They've been in the Kyle Tucker talks. All right, they've been in the Kyle Tucker talks this entire time. They've also been in the Dylan Cease talks.
Right.
I feel like now that they've got this Dylan Cease deal done, are they immediately out of the Kyle Tucker talks? I don't think so.
I think they definitely still will be. I don't think they're okay, now immediately, because I know you're going to want a lot of money, we're out. I think if they found a way to make it work, because obviously there's different ways they could structure it. They could have deferrals, they could have opt-outs. I know Bob Nightingale came in and said, well, if they have opt-outs for Bo Bichette in his contract, then maybe that makes them more increasingly likely to add a Kyle Tucker. There's ways to get it done, but it is just overall crazy to think that we're just having this conversation right now.
I get it. I just think that is now where the Toronto Blue Jays are, and I think that you shouldn't anyone be saying, oh, well, we can't get this guy now because we have this guy. People were saying that about Vladdy. They were like, oh, we can't possibly sign Vladdy and Bo back. Now it feels like that's just the floor, right?
They just throw $210 million to a guy that wasn't part of their organization. I think the Blue Jays are prioritizing Bo Bichette's value to the organization, and they'd be willing to spend $200 million just like that, no problem. And in fact, Mark Feinstein even comes out and confirms it. Bichette is probably still the #1 priority for Toronto. He's kind of speaking like we're speaking from an outside looking in. It's pretty obvious that they know they still need to go get that guy. That was still #1 priority. We said it in the very beginning of this offseason. That's #1. That's the first domino. Then you get a starting pitcher. They just jumped ahead and got a starting pitcher. So you still got to go get your #1 domino off the board. So that move, I feel like, is absolutely coming. It's either Bo or it's Tucker. They're still going to go out and get a big bat. And then probably, like Shai said, I would expect them to go get a big fish in the bullpen because, let's face it, Jeff Hoffman as the closer on this team isn't going to cut it right now.
Yeah, this is the first domino of many. Bo could be coming. I think Tucker is still in play right now. I honestly think everyone's still in play.
Anything could happen.
Pete Alonso could still be in play. Here's
Fuck,
the
another starting pitcher? Let's go.
Like ultimately, Dylan Cease. What's even maybe more exciting about the fact that they went out and got him is that we didn't hear a single goddamn thing about it. There was no rumors. It was just like, bang, here he is. He's a Toronto Blue Jay. So they're the same thing. Could Kyle Schwarber be in play? Maybe. I don't know. Right? I mean, it would be the same idea. It's like we haven't heard anything, but bang, there he is. There he is for a long time for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and like, look, they might not spend $1 billion because let's be honest, there's no $1 billion worth of players out there. I think the Blue Jays could acquire because that was the Shohei Ohtani $700 million offseason. But I really do think, like, could they spend $500, $500 million? Probably. They could absolutely
we're already
do so.
almost halfway there.
Because if you go get Bo Bichette or a Kyle Tucker, bang, and then one more piece, bang, you're already there. So this is going to be one of those off seasons that sets the Blue Jays organization apart from the rest of the league. You have the Mets, you have the Dodgers, and you have the Phillies, and you have the Yankees up there in terms of spending. The Blue Jays want to go join the party. We're going to be a top 5 team in baseball yet again in payroll, maybe even top 3 after it's all said and done.
Pretty sure we will.
And we're going to be playing amongst the big boys. And get ready, Blue Jay fans. Expect your Toronto Blue Jays to be competing with the big boys for the next at least 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, but let us know your thoughts about all this in the comments down below, folks. Hit that like, smash that subscribe button, hit the hype button as well. $4 a month to become a YouTube member. Shouldn't think all of our current YouTube members. You guys are amazing.
Guys, thank you so much for watching.
And as always,
go Jays, go!